This is my 1967 A65 BSA Thunderbolt, an A65T. I've had the bike since 1983 when I bought it out of a neighbor's estate. And Mark, the neighbor, had gotten it from his father, who bought the bike new, and at the time it had 1,100 miles on it, and it was virtually brand new. Wonderful bike. Anyway, since then, when I bought it, it had just a little less than 1,100 miles on it. And since then I've ridden it. It has 4,750 miles on it now. So about 100 miles a year. It's for all intents and purposes a completely original bike. With a couple exceptions. The frame lock on it crumbled one time and I replaced that with a new one. And then when I got the bike, one thing that I wasn't happy with is the paint seemed dingy, and I waxed it and it didn't get any shinier, and I waxed it again, it got shinier, and I continued to wax it which was a mistake, because eventually it rubbed through the top blue translucent paint on the bike, and that was painted over a silver base coat. So I had nice shiny patches of blue and silver, and I wasn't too happy with that. So maybe 7 or 8 years ago I ordered some of that original paint from England, took it to the guy that was doing paint work for me, and asked him to repaint the bike with the original transparent blue over silver lacquer. And he refused to do it. So he said I would never be happy with it. I'd continue to wax it, I'd eventually rub through it again, and he wanted to paint it with modern paint. So thinking he knew best, I let him do that, and it turned out wonderful. So as you can see, it's nice shiny blue. He pinstriped it then, not with tape but with paint, and it's the original shade and whatnot that I had to begin with. Now, the bike has never had any major work done to it or touch up or anything like that. It just is as it is. It's a 1967 BSA that runs and looks like it did in 1967. And it's always been properly stored and cared for and whatnot. For instance, the spokes and the spoke nipples have never had any rust on them, which is an amazing thing on a British bike, as has nothing else on the bike ever had any major rust on it. I think and everything on the bike works, the horn, the lights. When Mark's father got the bike, he had a windshield and turn signals put on it. It came from a local dealer. He was in Michigan, Grosse Pointe, and it came from a dealer up there somewhere, and he put a windshield and the turn lights on it. I took the windshield off, and I repositioned the front turn lights to the it just fit perfectly. I put the turn light fitting on top of the damper tube and put that screw back on, and it works great. Anyway, they say everything works, the ammeter, the lights. There's never been any problem with anything. The most remarkable thing I think about this bike is it is truly a 1967 British motorcycle experience. I rode those bikes in the 60s. I've had other BSAs, and it's just like riding one back in the mid-60s. It's the same experience, the same torque, just the power. They were really an interesting, torquey, quick bike, very reliable. And this bike's the same way. It usually starts on the first or second kick. No, it always starts on the first or second kick. And we'll start it. That's one reason I wanted to do another video. If you look back in my older Hoosier Bike YouTube channel videos, you'll see where I made an earlier video of this bike, and I did not at that time start it because it was in the spring or fall when I didn't have a battery in it. Well, now of course it's got a new sealed battery in it. Blemishes, about the only thing is a couple little battery acid marks on the right muffler, but nothing I would change it for. There's nothing on this bike I would update or redo or change now. And it has the original Burgess mufflers on it, so the sound is wonderful. Since the repaint, I don't know if you can see, we'll see. Never gotten any dirt or oil or anything underneath the newly painted fenders. You can see that there. I don't like original bikes where they've been polished to look like chrome, so the cases and so forth are actually just cleaned and the way I've kept them and so forth. The head, I actually did put a heat paint on it, a silver heat paint, because it just didn't polish up to suit me. I think you can see there that it's a dull silver. There's the emblem on the other side. Screw was too tight and it eventually cracked. I replaced it and it cracked again, and it's just the way it is, you know. You need to put them on fairly loose with Loctite and forget about trying to get them perfect to where they don't vibrate around and so forth. Anyway, so, and of course we put new decals on it and clear coated over the new paint when that was done. The original seat, everything on it like that's original. Now, this bike, as far as it runs, the way it runs, when they tested these things in the mid-60s, they found that they ran just as well, both acceleration and top speed, as the twin carb bikes. This is a single carb. It's a AMO monoblock. And that they were incredibly more reliable. You didn't have to fiddle with always trying to balance two carburetors like that. And I've owned I had a Spitfire Mark III, a 67. There was a full restoration. It never ran as well as this bike. I've had other BSAs and I've had other Thunderbolts. This is the best running one I've ever owned. Of course, I essentially started with a new bike, so that helps. Alright, let's see what we've got here. I'm going to put the camera down and kick it and see what happens here. It hasn't been started today. I flooded it a little bit a while ago, but we'll see what happens. Might take a couple kicks. Now, that hadn't been started since yesterday, so I think you can see it starting. It's not a problem. One reason I'm doing this is I'm getting the position, the age, and circumstances where I'm not real comfortable riding much anymore, and I might go ahead and sell this bike.